I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess, and today I am doing the top 5 English novels tag. So, this was a tag that's created by Hannah's Books, but was born out of a conversation between Karl Anderson and Sarah of Hardcover Hearts. So I wasn't tagged in this, but I saw Shelley Swearingen do it, and I thought this was such a great idea for a tag, and I've been watching other people's, and I really wanted to do one. But I realized kind of quickly that if I did, it would mostly be the same books from my top 10 best books list, and I didn't want that. And I realized that the way to get around that is to ban myself from including Victorian literature on here. So, these are my top 5 English novels that are not Victorian, because otherwise it would have been me talking about Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, and then like maybe we would throw Jane Austen and maybe like one other book in there, and that would be it. And I talk about those books all the time. I live those books all the time, my career. So I'm like, no, let's do not Victorian. So, top 5 not Victorian English novels. And by English novels, I am meaning from the UK, so from England, Scotland, Wales, or Ireland. And I think these all might be actually like England, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. But they are all indeed British Isles of some kind. So, and I'm totally cheating with the first one because it's a series. But you can't read it not together, I don't think. And this actually might surprise some people because I have talked about how I don't want to read this series ever again and how I have some issues with the writing in it. But this is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. So even though I hate Tom Bombadil, let it be known, I hate Tom Bombadil. I like the movies more than the book. I think that Tolkien goes on for way too long at some parts. However, I still think that this series, together, in and of itself, is one of the best novels, one of the best English novels ever. The amount of work and love that was put into this series, the world building itself, oh my word, the languages, the songs, the histories, the maps, it is phenomenal. And then at the center of it all, we have Frodo and Sam, and the friendship and love that they share is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read in a book. So I honestly do think that this is one of the best books in the English language, in the world. Do I want to read it again? No. Nope. Once was enough for me, unless one of my kids is like, hey mom, will you read this to me? These are figurative, like metaphorical, not real kids, because I don't have kids, but hypothetical, that's the word I want. Then I would read it to them. Maybe I'll change my mind one day and decide to revisit it. But even though I don't want to read it again, I do think that it is one of the top English series, I guess. But let's be honest, it's like all one book. And if this were written today, it would have all been one book. This would not have been a trilogy. He would have just been like, here you go. Let's be real. All right, so next up we've got another chunky fantasy book. And this is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. Again, so much world building and love went into this, and so much attention to historical detail. Even just within the way Clarke writes the book, it reads like a 19th century novel. The character building is wonderful. Again, the world building, phenomenal. The footnotes, I usually hate footnotes. Okay, like I'm not somebody that deals with footnotes, whether they're academic or whether they're supposed to be funny. I'm like, no, these footnotes are hilarious. I love them. They are one of the best parts of the book, and I really do think that this is one of in my opinion, in my own little world, one of the top English novels. All right, and then we have one that was on my top 10 books list, but it couldn't not be on my top 5 because it's amazing. This is Possession by A.S. Byatt, and I know some other people have also had this on there. So this deals with these two scholars who uncover these previously unknown love letters between two Victorian poets. So I did get my Victorian stuff in there somehow. I did it, even though I banned myself. And oh my God, the way this is written, the way that Byatt weaves these two stories, the present day and the Victorian together. And then of course there's all, because these are two made up poets. They're not real. They are based, I believe, on Christina Rossetti and maybe Tennyson. I don't quite know about the male poet, but Byatt created the work of these poets herself for this book. So again, like, just such a labor of love and beauty and passion and like intelligence. The intelligence that's had to go into all three of these books to make something like that is just, I admire it so much, and that's why that's why all three of these for me are top books, just because of that feat to make up all this stuff and weave it all together is just so amazing. All right, and then, so this isn't Victorian, so I'm not cheating here. I did put on a Jane Austen because I had to, and she's not Victorian, so but so unlike in my top 10 books, which I talked about Pride and Prejudice, I have here Persuasion by Jane Austen. I think that this is Jane Austen's best work. It's very mature, very poignant, like makes you feel something. It's not as funny as some of her others. It's more serious. It's more quiet almost. I mean, there is funny stuff in it, of course, and the romance between Anne Elliot and Captain Wentworth is oh, I love it. Oh my God. So I know Shelley talked about this in her video as well, and I mentioned in her in the comments on hers that I'm actually having a passage read from Persuasion at my wedding. It is Captain Wentworth's love letter that proposing to Anne Elliot that I'm having read. And so even though if you asked me, I'd probably say Pride and Prejudice is my favorite of hers, Persuasion is the best. It's the best written, it's the best kind of plotted, it's the most romantic, and you cannot fight me on that. This is the most romantic Jane Austen book, and I love it so much. All right, and then last but not least, I had an author who I knew I was putting on here, but I was like, okay, which book? It could be this one, it could be this one, it could be this other one, because everything she writes is amazing. So I ultimately went with Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. I adore Sarah Waters. I've read everything of hers except The Night Watch, which I need to get to eventually, but I think it takes place in World War II, and I'm like not a World War II person. But so Fingersmith takes place in Victorian London. I say I'm like, no Victorian novels, but I'll give you all kinds of books about the Victorian era. Anyway, so this follows Sue, who is a thief. She's grown up with thieves, and she is brought into this con by a man called the Gentleman, if I remember correctly, to get this fortune from this heiress called Maud Lily. And oh my God, this book. And again, I could have picked any of Sarah Waters for this, but I went with this one because of the way that she has drawn her two main characters, Sue and Maud. The way that she draws on Victorian literature to build her story. So there's aspects of Charles Dickens in here. There's some aspects of Oliver Twist. I mean, I think you could even say maybe a bit of Bleak House in here, maybe a little bit. But then also The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, which I read earlier this year and I adored. So this is just so well, and there's a plot twist in here that I remember where I was when I read this plot twist. I was sitting on the lanai at my grandparents' house in Florida. I just finished grad school. I think I had just finished grad school, and I had asked my mom for all of Sarah Waters' books for Christmas or a birthday or something, because I bought my first ones in England. And then sitting on the lanai, and I get to the end of whatever part it was, and I was just like, what? And my mom's like, what's wrong? I'm like, this book's insane. So I loved this. I'm actually not entirely sure if I'm going to be doing this, but I might be writing a conference paper involving this and The Woman in White, and talking about my working title is Can the Mad Woman Speak? Which is a reference to Spivak's Can the Subaltern Speak? But looking at whose narratives get told in their own voice in The Woman in White. So we've got Laura Fairley and, Anne Catherick, who don't get to actually voice their own stories. But then we have in Fingersmith, Sue and Maud, who get to narrate their own tale, their own story. And yeah, so I'm kind of thinking about that. We'll see what happens. So yeah, I think this is one of the best English novels. Although honestly, like, all of hers are the best English novels. I was between this, The Little Stranger, and Tipping the Velvet, because they're all amazing. Tipping the Velvet is her debut novel, and I was like, what do you mean this is a debut novel? But I ultimately think that Fingersmith is the most impressive of the three. All right, so those are my top 5 English novels. Top 5 English novels that are not Victorian, but that might be about the Victorian period. So I am once again not going to tag anybody in this, but if you want to do it, consider yourself tagged by me. I would love to hear down in the comments below. Have you read any of these? What did you think? What are your top 5 English novels? It has been great chatting with you all. I will see you soon. Bye.